Breaking tonight, while Senators Cruz, Rubio, Governor Kasich, and Bernie Sanders are all looking for new ways to win after yesterday's voting, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are increasingly looking at each other as the real threat. Take a listen to a little of what the two had to say last night.
We know we've got work to do, but that work is not to make America great again. America never stopped being great. We have to make America whole.
She wants to make America whole again, and I'm trying to figure out what is that all about. Make America great again is going to be much better than making America whole again.
Joining us now, Katrina Pierson, national spokesperson for the Trump campaign, and David Plouffe, a former senior advisor to President Obama and campaign manager of his 2008 presidential campaign. We're going to start, David, let's start with you. So you're the man who basically helped get Barack Obama elected twice, considered one of the biggest political geniuses we have in the country. Let's just go through this quickly. Do you think that Hillary has it secured now on the Democratic side?
I do. Bernie Sanders has run a strong race. I'm sure he'll win some states, but it's not very sexy. But this is about delegate acquisition, and she's built an almost impenetrable delegate lead. So, yeah, I think by the morning of March 16th, probably both Trump and Clinton look like they are, if not the presumptive nominees, the actual nominees. I think that's where this is headed.
Okay. So on the Republican side, we're hearing all this, it's going to be contested and no one can secure the majority of delegates and we're going to go all the way to July. What say you to those claims by Cruz and Rubio?
Well, my sense is Trump is going to be the delegate leader. Now, maybe he doesn't get a majority. So if you believe in the fairy tale that you can take the nomination away from someone in Cleveland during the Republican convention who's won the most delegates, then maybe you have a source of hope. I think that's very hard to do in either party. I think Clinton is going to clearly reach a delegate majority over time here. To me, that's the only scenario left. There's not a scenario that somehow Trump completely implodes. He starts getting 10% of the vote. I mean, he's got a pretty healthy floor. So I guess the only scenario is that you deny him a majority and somehow you steal the nomination away from him in Cleveland. I just think at the end of the day, that might even be a bigger disaster than what people fear with Trump as the nominee.
Right, because what are his supporters going to do if that happens? Support Rubio, support Cruz? There's a real question there. Now, let's say it's Trump versus Hillary in a general election. I mean, you are somebody who ran against Hillary, and now you're supporting Hillary. So how do you see that matching up, Trump v. Hillary?
I'll tell you what, you better not assume it's going to be an easy race. So, yeah, I think there's a chance that Trump could lose in a landslide, which these days could be as much as 10 or 12 points, which would be a disaster for the Republican Party. But he also can make it very close, if not win. I will tell you, the one thing he's doing is he's bringing out a lot of voters, some new, some old. He's also appealing to some, traditionally blue-collar independents and Democrats. So you better mount a campaign assuming that he's going to overperform McCain and Romney in some places, exploit places like, let's say, the Northern Virginia suburbs where he'd probably struggle. But you have to define the race. That's the trick in any campaign. Define yourself, define your opponent, define the race. And I do think Trump makes that difficult. Obviously, he has dominated the political landscape. He takes the oxygen out of the room every day. He basically hurls insults and assaults that no candidate prior to this has ever done, certainly in the modern times. So this is going to be tricky to run against him. I think he's got a lot of vulnerability. I think there'll be some Republicans who don't support him. I think there's a lot of independent swing voters that are repelled by what he says. But he also has the chance to overperform in a bunch of areas. And the one thing we've learned, all of us should say, we can't predict what's going to happen with this guy because he has defied every political prediction and defied every conventional wisdom about how to run the president here to date.
What would be your worry? If you look at the Obama coalition that you guys built in getting Barack Obama elected, he had all these Democrats, but he had huge numbers with women, with Hispanics, with African Americans, with young people. And, the wisdom was if the Republicans could peel off enough of those, then perhaps they could give Hillary a running chance. Trump is doing it differently. I don't know that he's going after those groups so much as getting the working class and the middle class across party lines, probably mostly white. But can you beat that Democratic coalition, whatever's left of it when it's not Obama running, with that sort of constituency by Trump?
It's hard. The numbers suggest it's hard. But let's even leave Trump aside. One of the challenges for Hillary Clinton is can she recreate that Obama coalition or enough of it? Can you get African-American turnout, support amongst Latino and Asian Americans? And then the most important thing, even before Sanders' emergence, was young voters. I think that's going to be the toughest thing for her to both get the right vote share and the right turnout. So even sort of irrespective of Trump, that's going to be a challenge. And that's how this turns into a close race. If you don't maximize the quote-unquote Obama coalition, and Trump is overperforming with some traditional, more blue-collar, white swing voters, then this becomes close. Now, I think Trump provides some energy to get young people, to get African-Americans, to get Latinos out, but you're going to have to run a skillful campaign. And I think this is a much, I mean, in the movie Rocky, he fights southpaw for most of the, or, right-handed, then he goes southpaw. I mean, Trump, I have some sympathy for the Republicans like Cruz and Rubio. We've never seen anything like this. There's no playbook for how to deal with this. And so I think that, I think she would be considered the strong favorite to get 270 electoral votes. I do think Trump would be particularly challenged in states like Colorado and Nevada, where there's, very important Latino votes, and even in Florida. But I do think that Clinton has some challenges irrespective of Trump. And I think the key one centers on energizing and getting a strong enough performance with younger voters.
Fascinating. David, great to speak with you. Thanks so much for being here tonight.
Thanks, Megyn.
All right, and back with us now, Trump campaign spokesperson Katrina Pierson. Katrina, good to see you. So do you generally agree with that analysis? It seemed pretty, down the middle.
It did seem down the middle, and, I think that your analysis early on was correct, too. Mr. Trump is bringing out voters that no other Republican in this race could ever do. He's bringing in states that other Republicans cannot take into play. And just for a second, I really want to address this idea where you have the establishment coming out and all of the elected officials that are coming out against Mr. Trump, saying that we should not have Mr. Trump in the nomination. Megyn, I just want to remind you and the viewers that these are the same people that lost 2 elections in a row. These are the same people whose idea of outreach in the minority community is printing out their policies in Spanish and haven't stepped foot in a black neighborhood in decades. And they have the audacity to tell the Republican base that Donald Trump is the problem. That is false and it's incorrect. And number one, out of all of this, Megyn, we have seen new people come in, young people, minorities, Hispanics. Mr. Trump won Hispanics in Nevada, tied with Hispanics in the state of Texas. Mr. Trump not only will beat Hillary Clinton in the general, but it will be a landslide.
Right, but the Hispanic numbers in Nevada were minuscule. I mean, it was like 100 people, and the margin of error was very big there.
But he's still been winning. He's still been winning.
Correct, but nationally, Mr. Trump's numbers with Hispanics are not good. They're between 70 and 80% disapproval. But that doesn't mean he can't necessarily turn things around before we get to the general election. That's the big question. I want to ask you, about, what he said when it comes to whether Trump will enthuse not just his supporters, but Hillary's.
Well, I think that we see right now there's a lot of disenfranchised Democrats. We've seen reports of those Democrats switching party affiliations just to support Mr. Trump because he is doing well among blue-collar workers and independent and Reagan Democrats, for that matter. There is no enthusiasm behind Hillary. And the thing about a Hillary versus Trump election is everybody knows who they are. People get excited about Donald Trump. He has a pro-growth, pro-America policy. And Hillary Clinton is more of the same. She's been saying the same things that she's been saying for decades. It's old. They've done nothing. And Mr. Trump is going to bring a whole new sphere to the political landscape.
Katrina Pierson, great to see you.
Thanks, Megyn.